I'm really glad to see you all today for this workshop. My name is Keika. I know maybe I am a coach for some of you. But today we're going to have a workshop about time management, which I think is just unbelievably important in succeeding in college, but not only that, succeeding in any field that you would like to pursue in the future, in a future career, or in your life, in your relationships. I think time management is just something that we have to do well. So before we start, I have a little activity, and I would like to ask for a couple volunteers who would like to be part of this activity. Does anyone want to volunteer? Yes, Richard. Is there anybody else who would like to support him? Awesome. Okay, why don't you guys come on up to the front? Okay. All right. Okay, so what I want you to do is, this is your stick, okay? And you can actually use both of your hands, okay? And you're gonna be helping him so that he's not gonna fail. So what I'm gonna do is, it's a balloon balance game. And I have 5 balloons, thanks to my strong lungs. I was able to blow all of them. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna toss these balloons, and all I want you to do is just don't let it touch the floor, okay? By the way, each of these balloons represent a task, a responsibility as a college student, but also I know you are also a brother, sister, son, cousin, daughter, whatnot, right? So I'm just gonna briefly explain what it is. Yeah?
Question, do we both?
Oh no, you're going to mainly do it, and then you're gonna help it because he's gonna have a hard time, probably. Okay? I have here some of the tasks that you guys have as a student. So can someone name what the tasks might be? What do you need to do as a college student? Yes?
You need to study.
You need to study.
Classes.
Going to classes.
And take responsibility.
Take other responsibilities. Very good. Anything else? Anything else? So classes, studying, some other responsibilities. Get involved in clubs. Does anyone work? No? Some people do? So work could be a responsibility as well. Family time, friends, relationships, social. So all of these will represent those tasks, okay? So do your best not to let it on the floor. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start from the classes, the basics. Ready?
Can I use
Yeah, you can use both of your hands.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. I'm a horrible thrower. You just have to keep, doing that. Just don't let it touch the floor. Yeah, good. It's just one, guys. Are you guys kind of doing okay?
Yeah.
You ready for the second one?
All right.
Okay, so now I have, where is it? Okay. I have other, which I meant to write down study time outside of the class. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are you guys doing okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now I have another important thing that you have to do is what? Social. You want to be social. You want to be involved. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Uh-oh. Come on, guys. I still have 2 more.
All right.
Are you doing? Are you doing okay? Okay. Now I also have family, because your family is important. And I have one more. This is work.
No.
Okay. Game over. You failed. Good job, guys. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you, guys. So, thank you. I want to ask you guys some questions. How did you feel about participating in this game? What's your thought about it?
Overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed. Why?
Because there were so many things we had to
Yeah. What about you?
And we had trouble.
You got trouble. Yeah, we could see that. What about you?
It's hard to keep focus with like the more tasks you have to complete.
Right. Now, what happens if you try to focus on one task? What happens to the other balloons? They just fall.
Yeah, they fall.
Right? Right. So the intention of this activity is really to show you how difficult it is to juggle between different tasks and responsibilities. Now, being a full-time college student is not easy, right? I think we've already spent 5 weeks in college, and I think some of you or all of you hopefully have learned that in the past 5 weeks. So in order for you to stay put and be focused without losing control or balance, you really need to plan ahead, because you only have a limited amount of resources, which is time and also yourself, your energy, your availability to these things, different tasks. So you want to plan ahead and make sure that you know how much of that resource to allocate on each of these tasks. Okay? So thank you all for participating. So let's go on and talk about the learning objectives of today's workshop is to identify the number of hours spent on academic, personal, and the social activities, and graphically illustrate how the number compares with the ideal hours spent on these tasks. You're also going to develop SMART goals, which we're going to be talking about later, and you're going to prioritize tasks based on importance and the due dates. You will also develop a realistic and workable study schedule, assign study time during your prime productivity time, which is very important as well. Then lastly, you're going to avoid procrastination by planning and practicing effective time management. So, the quote of the day is to get what you want, stop doing what's not working. Okay, so we're gonna go on to do an activity 1. I know you all have handouts in front of you. I want you to pick one that says harvest timesheet. And it has, it's a blank sheet of timesheet. What I want you to do is I want you to review your weekly schedule for this week, from Monday all the way to Thursday, which is today. Think about what you did and how much time you spent on some of these activities, such as classroom lectures, studying outside of the class, watching TV or being on social media, transportation if you take the bus or drive, Starbucks, coffee, eating, cleaning, shopping, sleeping, and any other responsibilities. So think about how much time you spent on these activities and write them down. I'm going to give you guys about 10 to 15 minutes to do this. And when you're done, highlight your outside of class study time in one color. And I also want you to highlight your non-academic activities that were not important, okay, in a different color. Okay? Can someone share how many hours you spent on studying outside of the classroom?
Outside the classroom? Not very much. Only around
Not very much.
maybe 30 minutes.
30 minutes from Monday all the way until today?
No, wait, a little bit more than that.
A little bit more than that? So maybe a couple hours
Yeah.
total?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Couple hours. Anybody else?
3 hours.
3 hours?
Except for tests.
Except for tests. Okay. Anybody else?
6.
6. Okay, we have a winner. Yeah.
Like 6 to 7 hours a week.
6 to 7 hours a week. So between Monday to Thursday today. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. 10. Okay, we have a real winner. Okay. All right. So what about, how does that compare with the time that you spent on non-academic activities that were not so important? How many hours did you guys spend on non-academic, not important activities? Does anyone want to share?
Probably 10.
Probably 10. Okay, and you said that you studied how many hours?
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Anybody else? You can be honest.
The sleeping counts?
Hmm?
The sleeping counts?
The sleeping count. I don't think so. I think sleeping is pretty important. Yeah, huh? Okay. So, what I really wanted you to do is actually see how much time you spent on studying and also not so important activities outside of the classroom. As a full-time student, you're probably taking somewhere between 12 to 16 units, right, this semester? How many hours are you expected to study outside of the classroom?
2 hours.
2 hours?
Or 1.
Oh, you mean
2 hours of like a day.
2 hours? Actually, I think 2 hours per every hour that you spend in the classroom, you need to spend outside, right? So you said 32 hours if you're taking 16 units, 24 hours minimum if you're taking 12 units. Is there anyone who met that? Yes, awesome. Awesome, okay, one person. I'm still happy, great. So this is essential. You really need to understand what the expectations are in college in order for you to succeed in college. So it comes back to this, right? Why time management? Time is the only thing that you can never get back. Some people take, finance classes, learning how to manage their money. And the thing about money is that you can always earn more money. You just have to work longer hours or you come to school to get a well-paying job. There's a way to earn more money. But when it comes to time, you will never get back the time that you lost. So bad time management leads to stress. I think all of us have, to a certain degree, experienced what it feels like to not have enough time to do things that you need to do. Good time management, on the other hand, leads to happiness, success, and more time for play. So I want to briefly introduce to you this concept of time management quadrants, which was discussed by Stephen Covey in the book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So he categorized 4 different boxes. So the first one on the top left is quadrant number 1. It's important and urgent. The quadrant number 2 is it's important, but it's not urgent. Quadrant number 3, not important, but urgent. And the quadrant number 4 is not important and not urgent. Now, I want you to think about how you approached your assignments in the past 5 weeks. Do you think your assignments, when you approach them, will fall into the category of quadrant number 1, which says the task is important and also urgent? Do you think your assignments fall into this category? How many people? Just raise your hands.
Which
So this one is things are important and also urgent. Okay, what about quadrant number 2? Is there anyone who approached your assignment as something that's important but not urgent? Awesome. Okay, 2 people. Great. When you put your assignments into this quadrant number 1, which says it's important and urgent, you are under a lot of pressure to meet the deadlines, right? So what's going to happen is you're going to try to just put out the fires because you have a crisis in front of you, and you need to find a way to just get through and get by. And what happens is you're only going to be able to put minimum amount of work that you are capable of. If you put your assignments into quadrant number 2, on the other hand, you have so much more control and clarity because you're not under the pressure of meeting a deadline, right? So I think it's a concept of acting versus reacting. when you're reacting to something, there's a crisis. You need to react to it, respond to it, just because you have to avoid the worst case scenario, which is probably missing the assignment, right? So all you're trying to do is just turn in the assignment, write something, just do the minimum. You're not going to be able to go beyond and above of what you are expected to do, because all you want to do is just meet the minimum expectation. But when you're acting, you are initiating on your assignments in an earlier stage. So you have so much more control and you're not going to be stressed. So the results are sad face and the smiley face. So what do we need to do to improve our time management skills? There are 6 different steps. The step 1 is you need to set your goals and plans. What do you really want? For life? For next 5 years? For this year? For this semester? This week and even today? What is your goal? Because without having a goal established for yourself, you can easily be lost. And I've seen a lot of students who would just waste semesters and years in college because they don't have goals established for themselves. They're just kind of wandering around, trying to do things in front of them, but not really sure where they want to go. So it's important that you write them down and look at them periodically, because you and the world surrounding you are constantly changing, right? So you want to be able to change your plans as you move on, but you can't change your plans unless you have something. So here comes the SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, meaningful or measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. When you set your goals, you want to make sure that your goals are specific. Who, what, when, and where. For instance, a broad goal saying, I want to get my degree. That's a very general goal, right? You want to be more like, I am going to get my bachelor's degree in communication from USC by 2018. That's more specific. Meaningful or measurable. You want to know why you have that goal and why you're trying to pursue that goal. And also you want to be able to measure how much progress you have made towards attaining that goal. So for instance, I'm going to work out in the gym 4 times a week after class to feel and function better. Or I'm going to save $100 by the end of October 2014 to buy a birthday gift for my mother. Very specific, meaningful, and also measurable. You also want your goals to be attainable and realistic, which means it's under your control, okay? When goals are realistic, you have a goal that you are both willing to and able to work toward. So to set aside 2.5 hours every week to spend time with my family, that's more attainable than saying to make sure I am available to my family all the time. Okay? And the timely, you want to set a time frame of especially focusing on the starting point and the ending point of your goal. When do you start and when is it supposed to end? So I know on in front of you, you also have a handout of the SMART goal sheet. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down 1 or 2 of your SMART goals for this particular semester. So with the SMART goals in your mind, you will be able to see what you're trying to achieve, what your objectives are. And I suggest that you post your goals somewhere that's in a prominent place, such as your I don't know, your room on the wall or somewhere that you can see, so that you can stay focused. And also the goals have to be your own goals. It's what you want for yourself, not what other people want for you. And also be flexible, because goals can change as the circumstances change. And also you are going to change as you grow and develop as a person. Okay? So, next step is determine how you spend your time. This is what we did in activity number 1. I know you all wrote down what you did for this week. you need to be able to see what's working and what's not working. Is it the way that you would ideally spend your time? Then you're going to evaluate, how am I wasting my time? What can I be doing differently to make use of my time better? And when am I most productive, which is a key point. Are you also eating, sleeping, exercising? Because if you're not sleeping and coming to class, you're not going to focus. You're not going to retain the information. And the last thing is really important. How does my actual use of time compare to my goals? It's kind of like a reality check, and you could be actually really shocked by just seeing how much time you've spent on things that are not really important. So step 4 is schedules and lists. You want to make a schedule including classes, study time, work, exercise, social time, meal time, and sleep. And what I really want to focus on is figure out your prime productivity time. Can anyone tell me what this might mean? Yeah?
The best time you can actually focus on your work.
Absolutely right. So prime productivity time is when you are most alert and most productive. For me, I kind of shut down between like 2 and 4 o'clock. So if I have to do a workshop between 2 and 4, I'll be really tired. I'll have to get a coffee to just get myself up and stay alert. I also shut down after 9 p.m. So I would not assign my study time after 9 p.m. at all. The point is, don't try to fight your own rhythm. We all have a different rhythm, right? Some people could be morning person, some are night person, and that's okay. You need to just figure out what you are and think about what the tendencies you have during that time of the day. So try to schedule difficult tasks when you're most productive, and try to do other things that are not so important when you're not so alert, like such as I play with my dog at night and I don't need to use much brain power to play with my dog, so that's totally okay with me. Step 4, this is another thing that's really important. Tell your friends and family your schedules. You need to defend your prime productivity time. Because if you don't tell them, what's going to happen?
They're gonna like
Distractions?
Yeah.
They're gonna
hang out with them.
tell you to hang out with them. So, interruptions, right? It happens. And yes, you love them, but you need to let them know that they have to respect your study time, which is going to happen during the prime productivity time. Okay? And like I said, you can maybe do cleaning, hanging out with friends, talking on the phone, being on social media at the time that you're not really that alert. It doesn't require that much brain power, right? I do like house cleaning and stuff like that when I'm halfway, still sleeping, and I can still do it. But when it comes to studying, I can't. I really have to be focused. So make useless time useful. This is kind of like a typical schedule of a full-time student in college. So he or she's taking English, bio, pre-cal, chemistry, so full-time. As you can see, he or she has blocks of times in between classes. And I know all of you probably do have some break time, right, in between classes. Because college, you don't just go to school from 8 to 5. You make your own schedule. What I really want to tell you is these blocks of time can be easily filled with things that are not that important. Can anyone tell me how you spend your break time at school? In between classes?
Which one? Like, when you say in between classes, like break time in class or break time outside of class?
Break time outside of the class, so like you have the first class, and then your second class starts like 2 hours after.
Well, usually I have to eat lunch.
Eat lunch?
Maybe review for my math classes. Quizzes.
Okay, so reviewing. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sometimes-
And you have to eat too, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Walking around the campus.
Walking around the campus. What do you do when you're walking around?
Just like walking around the library and then you check out the books and stuff.
Okay.
Wasting time.
Okay, awesome. So that's awesome, right? And that's what you really want to do is make use of these kind of blocks of time that you would not think to be useful. You're already on campus. What's going to happen is because you're already on campus, you may not even realize that you're wasting time, but you're actually wasting time. And you're telling yourself, well, I'm at school, I'm being a student, I'm doing my job, I'm doing my part. But in actuality, you could be wasting all these time blocks and not even knowing about it. So try to go to the library. You can come to TLC to study, and it's just the perfect place to go. And you're already on campus, so it's so much easier to get a lot of things done actually, if you just get to the place where you can study. And also, you want to make to-do lists. It's important that you break down big tasks into more manageable ones. I always say do the uglies first, because we want to believe that we can tackle this huge assignment in, like, let's say 6 hours. If I focus super much, then I'll be able to finish this big assignment in 6 hours. But in reality, what's going to happen is,
Listen to music.
yes, you listen to music, you get distracted, and let's say I have a huge paper due. So I start writing my outline. This is my thesis statement. Intro, body, conclusion. When I start writing my outline, I'm going to realize, crap, it's not going to be done in 6 hours because I just spent 3 hours writing my outline. And that could happen. So what you do is you want to break down those huge assignments into small chunks of tasks so that you know you're not trying to get from 0 to 100, but dividing it into smaller pieces. So you do the outline maybe a week before, 2 weeks before, then you start writing a couple days later. So it's more manageable. Okay? And you also want to prioritize using the due dates and importance. So instead of saying, oh gosh, I have so much to do, write down what you have to do. If it's 10 things, write 10 things. If it's 16, write 16. If it's 3, write 3. Because when you have a concrete idea of how much you need to do and exactly what you need to do by when, it's not going to be that overwhelming, because that's what it is. It's no more or less than what it is. But when you say, I have a lot to do, it can completely overwhelm you because you're not 100% sure about what you have to do. So write it down and prioritize. So this is a little side note. The average American wastes about 2 hours each day without calculating the traffic, such as messy desk, trying to find things, missing appointments, being late for meetings. And a lot of people say that I'm great at multitasking. How many people would say that I'm great at multitasking?
No one can multitask.
No one can multitasking. Yes, that's the point, right? So that's where I'm going. Simply put, studies show that our brains are just not set up for multitasking. But when you're studying, how many people will actually say that I tend to do other things when I'm doing my homework? Phone, the biggest thing? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So imagine you are having a very important phone interview with a possible employer. This is like your dream job, right? You're having a phone interview because that's what happens a lot of times these days. Would you be doing something else besides being on the phone? Probably not. Why not? You can't think, right? Because it's important. It's your dream job. You really want to get the job. You want to be able to give the best answers possible to every single question that you're asked. And to do that, it requires all of your focus and all of your attention. Approach the schoolwork the same way that you would. Because all these school assignments require a lot of your thinking. And as you even move on, you're still in the first semester, but as you move on and start taking all the kind of higher level classes, the expectations are going to be even more and more and more. And it's really going to require all of your focus and attention. So try not to multitask. Maybe you can just turn off the phone, And if you're going to keep it vibrated, then maybe you can put it kind of like away from you so that you're not going to hear the vibration when it's ringing. But then when you're done studying, you can go back to the phone and see what missed calls you may have, right? So these things are really important. Reduce waste. So we talked about the interruptions, right? An interruption lasts on average about 6 to 9 minutes, and it requires about 4 to 5 minutes of recovery per an interruption. So if you have 5 interruptions, that can kill a whole hour of your time. And have you thought about it like that? It's like, oh, I'm just on the phone for 5 minutes. It's no big deal. But then the recovery time actually costs you as well, because you're not going to be in the mood to study after having, like a great conversation, I don't know, with your friend. So step 6, last step is avoid procrastination. What I can say about this is, obviously we discussed a lot of different things that you could do so far, but try to establish your own deadline before your professor or boss expects the results. How many of you use calendars? Great, awesome. And when you write on the calendar, do you write down the exact deadlines?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there any other deadline that you set up for yourself to finish the task? Yes or no?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, not really. Okay. Try to establish your own deadline. This is really going to help you. And again, we're talking about acting versus reacting, right? You're going to act so that you can initiate, get your hands on the assignments early. That way you're not going to feel the stress and the overwhelmingness. So, just to kind of summarize what we did today, you need to review your schedule, which we did today, which is great. And you want to write down your SMART goals. And you definitely want to get a calendar or agenda. Make sure that you follow what's coming up and be very mindful of the deadlines. And start examining your relationships with time wasters such as TV, social media, video game, etc. And evaluate yourself in the beginning, the mid, and the end of each semester to see how you're doing. Okay? So, I really want to do the last activity quickly, if it's possible. So the last activity is, let's create your own schedule for the next week, incorporating what we learned today. Keys are, set your goals, prioritize tasks, reduce time wasters, work during your prime productivity time, set your own deadlines, and plan and follow your schedule. Okay?